This is Time Signatures with Jim Ervin, a podcast and radio program presented by the Capital Area Blues Society in Lansing, Michigan.
Driving up and down these Michigan roads, yeah.
And now, here he is, your host, Jim Ervin.
Baby, I'm home.
Well, thank you so much, Parker, and welcome to Time Signatures. I'm your host, Jim Ervin, and I have to tell you that my guest today is a young lady after my own heart. She really is. She is a one-woman band and an outspoken advocate for social justice and artists' rights, and the first musician to release an album under the Buy Before You Stream initiative. Her newly released album, From the Ashes, is both a deeply personal artistic statement and a direct response to the growing crisis of sustainability for the independent musicians. She is a fierce believer in artist independence, and she relies on the sale of albums and merchandise in order to survive on the road. This story is one that is all too often repeated across today's music scene, and it seems, at least to me, that the COVID pandemic only served to magnify the seemingly never-ending struggle that we are seeing today. So let's get into the discussion with our guest, Talia Keys. Talia, welcome to Time Signatures. How are you?
Jim, thanks so much for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you. And I have to tell you that when I got the email from John last week, it took me a matter of less than 2 minutes to say yes to an opportunity to talk to you. And it's because I truly believe that you and I are a kindred spirit, Talia. Talk to me about the Buy Before You Stream initiative.
So Buy Before You Stream is something that the label I've been working with, Midtopia, is launching. And it is an initiative to get physical music into fans' hands long before it gets to the streaming and digital platforms. And it really is like a way to connect this, what seems like intangible thing, music, and connect it to the physical thing of getting that into your hands, holding a piece of music, holding a piece of your future collection. And I just think it's incredible. Like, we've got this physical music we can hold in our hands. And, I'm going to put it to you bluntly. One of these albums is worth about 3,000 to 5,000 streams. So one person saying, hey, I want to pick up this record. I want to meet you and shake your hand and support your music directly. You have to equal about 5,000 streams on those platforms to make that same amount of money. And this is our bread and butter. This is how we keep going and touring and creating our dreams for you, the listener.
I'm sitting here nodding my head because anybody who watches this program can tell you how many times I've said exactly what you just said. It takes at least 5,000 streams to equal a $20 CD or a $20 piece of vinyl. This is ridiculous, Yeah. I have to know, what do you know about the initiative? When did it start? How long has it been going on?
You know what? They're launching on April 14th. So the entire initiative. This is brand new. So my record will be the first that they're doing. There's a lot of other incredible independent artists on Midtopia's label who will be doing the same exact thing. So it's kind of rad because we're starting this revolution with these bands that are out there on the road. They're touring, they're creating new albums every year or a couple years. And I just really believe in it. This is my 6th album, and I really feel like so much more passionate approaching it this way, and back then, my last album, I was encouraged to release 7 singles, not an album. And this album, I'm reclaiming that. I'm telling a whole story. It's supposed to be listened to from front to back and again. So we're excited.
Now, I have to ask you, where did you learn about Buy Before You Stream? How did that come to you?
So it came to me from the label. They proposed the idea. I had met them and talked about my next record that was coming out. And they were like, hey, can we hold off on the release date? And we've got this really great idea. And, I am an activist and an artist, and I do care about having basic human rights and living wages and, all the things that we should have for these careers. And this just spoke to my heart. It's something that's near and dear to me to feel like, well, actually, I can be compensated by the people that love my music, and they can be an actual piece to the puzzle of making it happen.
And what better way to show support for somebody that you love as a musician than to go out there and buy their music and support them, buy their merchandise? I mean, it's a very, very small price. And furthermore, here's the important thing for me, Talia.
Yeah.
If you want live music out there, you damn well better start supporting it or it will go away. People can't just afford to do this on the back of their hand. They can't afford it.
No. You drive all day, say you've got an 8-hour drive to get to your next gig, you show up, it takes 3 hours to
Hmm.
do all that. You get on stage and say nobody shows up, right? You're doing all that, and it is one of the hardest things to have happen. But say 10 people show up, and those 10 people are absolutely stoked on what they're hearing. They're dancing, they're into it, and at the end of the night, they want to get your CD or your album, your vinyl, your t-shirts, and that to me, like, is better than a packed house of people who don't listen. There's really a fan connection that can happen in these smaller clubs or these smaller level that you just can't get in these big spaces anymore. So I am stoked that I am still doing the grassroots thing and still getting out there and playing venues and meeting my fans after shows.
I don't know if are you familiar with Danielle Nicole? You know her
Oh
music?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. I actually just played in
I
Kansas City and she was at the show. So I met her and I was totally a
Very,
fan.
very cool.
Yeah.
Yes. She I had a chance to interview her a little over a year ago. Love, love, love that girl. She is such an incredible musician. Her and her brothers had an incredible band. And I told her, I said, listen, I'm a professional photographer as well. You can't see his face is blown out, but that with the purple frame there, that's Joe Bonamassa. It's a picture I took of him at the Fox Theater, and it looks good when it's not blown out by the light. So please forgive me. But long story short, I told her, I said, when you come to Michigan, I definitely want to come and see you. She's like, well, I'll provide tickets for you to come. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, when you do that, I want you to remember this. I will come with money and I will buy some merch. And I'm not just going to talk about it. I'm going to do it. And I'm not going to talk about how much I spent, but I spent a pretty good chunk of change. I walked away with a piece of vinyl, some CDs. I think I got a T-shirt or two. I bought 2 posters that were signed. I mean, I put my money where my mouth is when it comes to supporting the artists. And I'm not doing this for a pat on the back, but like I said, I want to see these guys out there, these guys and ladies. I want to see the music. I want to go out and enjoy it, And
Yeah, just you visiting that merch table helped them get to the next city. Literally,
yeah,
that puts gas in the tank, that puts food in their bellies, it gets you into your hotel in a safe bed at night. Like it really is crucial to musicians what you all do.
yeah, no doubt about it. Now, talk about the 0% microloans that they provide for vinyl production. That sounds like a really cool idea.
I was like, wait, like really blown away, it nearly brought to tears, because I had almost given up on trying to do vinyl again. I had done that in 2018. I had to take out a loan. It was a lot. I still am selling those records. I just was like, you know what? I just think people don't care, blah, blah, blah. They'll get it online. And I was reinvigorated when they said, no, we are going to give you a 0% microloan. We're going to pay for the production and get these vinyl in your hands. And what we do as artists is we sell them and then we give what was invested from Midtopia back to Midtopia. After that, this is completely unheard of. We keep 100%. So it is just life
Wow.
saving. It is a career saving move, truly. I'm honored.
Wow.
Yeah.
I am absolutely blown away. Um, I think it's an incredible thing. I mean, you can tell I'm also a vinyl fan. I have some vinyl right
Yes.
here, and I've got about 400 pieces of vinyl that I have amassed over the last 12 months, 11 months,
Yep.
almost 12 months, because April 8th I had none, and beginning April 9th is when I started buying. And between then and now, I've got all of this vinyl. Um, I love the CDs. I love the crisp sound, but there's nothing that can replace, especially for somebody raised back in the 70s and 80s,
Yep.
that was what I was raised on. And it's so cool to be able to have that experience. But Talia, I love that the basis of this movement, if you will, is to bring the listener and the musician back together simply by having the music available for sale first. How what kind of response are you hearing so far? Are you getting a little initial feedback from your fans?
So absolutely. So we've kind of done a little soft launch. I just played Tree Fort Music Festival in Boise, Idaho, and we
Okay,
had these brand new 45s available that just came out for Tree Fort. We had them up there. And so
nice.
people, yeah, people were like getting an exclusive. They were getting this music before anyone else. And I've already sold about 10 copies just there at a music festival.
Very
Like
cool.
so it's been really cool to see, and I'm seeing it just firsthand. This is putting money back into my pocket. I've
Yeah.
fully, self-invested my record, and so to know that I will get that back and then some is just pretty amazing.
Oh,
So,
yeah. And
yeah.
I want to share something with our listeners and our viewers. The website says this: own the music, own the moment. Buying before you stream gives you a raw, real, in your hand souvenir of music history, while at the same time empowering independent artists to thrive beyond the digital landscape. So, supporting the artist is at the heart of this initiative, isn't it?
Because without the artist, we wouldn't have the art,
True.
And I think a lot of people forget sometimes that we're real human beings playing real instruments in a studio, and that real human is working in the studio being our engineer, and real humans are mixing it. We have people who master it. We have artists who create the covers. Like I had a string section on this album, plus my entire band, The Love. There's just so many humans who put their love, their effort, their heart, and their talent into making this album. So to be able to share that with a fan or a listener, and just they have this physical reminder of the human beings behind the music.
Yes, indeed. Well, Talia, we've been talking about the album. Now we need to talk about the album with some specificity here. The album is called From the Ashes. It features 7 tracks. And from what I've read, you did spend a considerable amount of time and personal resources getting this album together, didn't you?
In February of 2024. So,
Okay.
yep. And took us up until, just a few months ago to get it completed. We track everything live with my band. I love to have that live energy, that feeling. Like we love to
Yeah.
look at each other when we're playing. And then we go in and we do some additional guitar work by myself. My keyboardist goes home into his lab where he has all his different sounds. We hired an amazing string section based out of Michigan, actually, the Accidentals. I don't know if you know
Nice.
them.
The
Incredible.
name sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Yes.
Incredible female group, Sav Madigan on violin and Katie Larson on cello. And we have myself singing vocals and then my incredible backup vocalist. So I'm really excited. The energy's there, the creation's there. And it did take a lot of time. It took a lot of resources. We spent
Yeah.
about 17 days in the studio. And as you can imagine,
Wow.
that grows, that starts to add up, that starts to create, oh, what's going to happen next? Where are we going to get this from? But knowing that I had a label behind me willing to believe in what we were doing and to get it out into the world, I said, let's go for it. So we did.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Now, how about the process of writing for this album? Did
Yeah.
you have any help along the way, or did you find that things were falling into place for you organically?
Well, I think for me, a few of these songs were written when we were all locked down and forced to do shows from inside this room, and we were isolated and it was a really kind of a tough time. So for me, these songs came from a deep place of emotion, of longing, of love and loss and hope, just knowing that we will get through this. And then a couple of my songs were written, inspiration by a dear friend, Sarah Johnson, who's a disabled rights activist. My song Matchstick was written about what
Yeah.
she fought for. And then my song Glowing Golden, I wrote after touring the US with Lucas Nelson. We had this incredible summer chasing his tour bus Honeysuckle Rose, which used to be Willie Nelson's tour bus.
Yeah.
Yes, we chased it all across the US and played all these incredible venues. And hearing Lucas and his band and his songwriting inspired my song Glowing Golden. So it's
How
pretty
cool
cool.
is that?
Yeah, I'm
You
just
know,
honored.
I have to tell you a quick story here. I used to drive truck for a living.
Yes.
And on this one particular morning, I'll never forget it. I was heading east down 94 and I passed Honeysuckle Rose going the other way.
Wow.
And they're called a stagecoach. That's the CB
Yep.
slang or whatever. And I picked up the radio. I'm like, all right, there. How about you there, stagecoach? You got your ears on? And he says, yeah. She says, you got anybody important there? He goes, ah, hell no, just Willie Nelson, man. Have a good day. And so that
It's
was my,
amazing.
yeah. But when you talk about that, it's like instantaneously brought me back to that day. That's so cool.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
any favorite tracks on this album, Talia? Anything that you can point to and
Yeah.
go,
I love the two singles we chose for obvious reasons. Just really how important they are to my heart and how kind of catchy they are. I love how feel good Matchstick and Glowing Golden are. And there's another song on there called Sky is Falling, and it's about the artist's struggle. It starts with the line, I don't even know why I write these songs. And that's kind of where it comes from, is this place of insecurity or, why am I doing this? What am I fighting against? And it's about following your dreams and how your whole childhood, they tell you, you follow your dreams, but you become an adult and they're like, well, wait a minute, not those dreams, right? And just that struggle, that artist struggle, and that one features the accidentals on strings, and they just make I get goosebumps every time I listen to it. And we really take it to a cool psychedelic place as well. It tells an
nice?
entire story. So, but the album is just near and dear to my heart. Every song has meaning and has a story behind it.
Yeah. And I was really trying to consider whether I was going to ask that question because most people go, well, it's like, what's your favorite child? How do you pick your favorite song? But
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, in the process of writing, in the process of recording, and as you were getting going with this label and deciding to become part of the initiative, have you talked to any of the outside artists that have not been involved in this yet? Have you kind of shared the message with them? And if so, what kind of feedback are you getting?
Totally. I've had people reach out to me and be like, wait, what's going on here? Can you tell me
Nice.
more? I am pretty locally involved here in Salt Lake City is where I'm based. We have a great
Okay.
local scene, a great local blues scene, and I am involved. So I think people do see things that we're doing and they want to know more. And I've always been an advocate for asking to get paid for gigs, right? That's one thing, right? Not just playing for exposure, valuing yourself much more than maybe you are valuing yourself. And I think we're seeing this real shift of music's just this background thing that happens to music is part of almost every moment in my life. And I value
Yeah.
it. So
Yep.
I'm thankful to be at the forefront of this and to see how many artists are inspired to do the same.
Well, it kind of reminds me of photography. I am a professional photographer, but I'm more on the hobby end. I just
Nice.
enjoy doing it. It's a passion.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people who take what they do very, very seriously, and their favorite response is, "What value do you put on my work?" Okay, because I can tell you it's not going to be anywhere near the value I put on it. And it's nice to see musicians like yourself that are going to go, no, we're not going to just settle. We're going to stand up and we're going to say something and we're going to make sure that we get paid damn well what we deserve for it. And I don't see any problem with that. Especially knowing that after your 0% microloan is paid off, every dime that you get from every album you sell is yours. I mean, how cool is that?
It's unheard of. It truly is a really cool thing, and it's very sustainable. And it's not just like, hey, let's just burn out, right? Let's just spend all this money and burn out. It's thinking about the future, the sustainability of it, how to keep their artists going. I'm very inspired to keep continuing and thinking about the next record already, which
Yep.
is not normally the case. Normally you're like, okay, whew, I gotta breathe through this and and go through all that process what just happened, but now I'm already like, okay, let's go. So we're excited.
This kind of reminds me a little bit when I talked to Joe Bonamassa. He talked about how he got out there on his own and promoted himself. And I mean, they've got a whole formula together. Now they're starting to bring artists in and teaching them the same thing of what they're, the same thing that he did, so they can be sustainable on their own and not have to depend on, labels. Sorry, guys, I love the labels, but I think we're starting to see a real shift in the music business, and musicians are starting to say, you know what, I can do this. And I think that's really amazing to see that kind of an attitude develop. How about plans for some tour dates? Have you got anything coming together on that front yet? I know you said you teased it and did a little soft launch.
Yes. We do actually we're playing the Utah Blues Festival in June. Very excited about that.
Yeah.
Get to represent my hometown, and blues is where I got my start. I went to the Blues Jam every Monday and every Tuesday when I started playing, and then just got my chops up. And so I still have this like deep affinity for the blues. And then we're coming out to Wichita to play Somewhere Fest. That's Wichita, Kansas.
Okay.
And then we're playing Crossroads Fest in Kansas City, Missouri. And then we have a few dates we're working on for the end of summer and fall that we can't announce yet, but we're going to get out there. So,
well, just make me a promise that when you decide to hit Michigan, you let me know, because I would love to come and see you. And I'll tell you the same thing I told Danielle. I'll bring some money and I'll spend some merch, or, buy some merch and stuff. But I want to talk about the most important part of this, Talia. Where can folks go to get more information about you, get their own copy of this album, buying before they stream, and maybe buy some merch or book you for a gig?
Yeah, just myname.com. So TaliaKeys.com. We have all the links to everything you need on there.
And we will absolutely put a link on the information section for this episode. But Talia, it's indeed been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me today on Time Signatures. I appreciate it.
Jim.
All right. As this episode comes to a close, please allow me to tell you about the Just Blues Music Foundation. Just Blues is a foundation whose mission is to nurture the soul of the blues with a mission to protect and preserve blues heritage, honoring the originators of the blues and those who continue the legacy of the blues. Just Blues offers many cultural heritage special events, the annual Just Blues Music Awards and Conference, historical blues education programs for our youth, and very much more. You can make your tax-deductible donation today to Just Blues by visiting justblues.org. That's just without the T.org. And look for the donate button at top center of the page. And thank you so much for your consideration. And that wraps up this edition of Time Signatures. Once again, my thanks and appreciation to Talia Keys, but also to you, for without you, none of this would be possible. Jim Ervin reminding you, keeping the blues alive is everyone's responsibility, but preserving the history of the blues, one story at a time, that's my mission. Until next time, so long, everybody.
This has been Time Signatures with Jim Ervin, presented by the Capital Area Blues Society in Lansing, Michigan. For more information on cabs, visit capitalareablues.org. You can find this episode and past episodes at lccconnect.org. The Time Signatures theme song, Michigan Roads, is used by permission and was written by Root Doctor, featuring Freddie Cunningham.
I'm trying, baby, driving up and down Michigan Road, yeah.
Until next time, keep on keeping the blues alive.